Sophie here with another Sims 4 PS4 build. Today I'm going to be doing a park build, which is a little bit of a redo of an old build I did. I sadly lost it when I had to do a PS4 reset and I re-downloaded The Sims, and it meant I lost a lot of builds, including the retail center that I was really happy with, which all the videos are on my channel if you want to check those out. At some point I'll probably try and redo that, but obviously not a new video for it. So yeah, this is my Dogwood park. So the three things that I wanted in this park were the roller rink, which I chose over an ice rink just to make it more general to any kind of weather. And then a cafe area with the cupcake stand, and a kids play area, which I originally wanted to try and get one of the big sort of climbing frame play sets in, but I also wanted swings, and it just didn't fit the amount of space I had. So I really wish there was more slides available. I know there are some in the toddlers pack, but there's not one for kids. I then tried to put in a pond because I really wanted some natural water, and I couldn't find any terrain tools like it used to be in The Sims 3 and I think 2 as well. They had a feature where if you dug down into the earth so much, then it would naturally fill up with water. If I've missed where to find that tool, then please tell me. So for the entrance, I put in that fountain as like the centerpiece. I tried out a few different centers for the fountain, and I tried out the big fountain that they have already built, but I went with this one in the end because it feels a lot more kind of local and a bit less grand. Although I wanted the park to have a very romantic feel as a place that you could go and hang out or go on dates, or so a lot of the lighting will also reflect that in the end, and the amount of flowers that are used as well. So in the entranceway you can see that I put in 2 benches, and I wanted to build up around those with flowers and have the main pathway go up past the fountain to all the different areas. The other thing is I didn't build any walls around the whole park in the end. So actually, although that is where I imagine the entrance to be, the Sims can do whatever they want and they can just freely move through the park, because there's no sort of area that they can't move through, so they kind of come in from any direction. I might go back and add walls in, or maybe potentially just around the kids play area, because I feel like that's something that is very typical for parks, to have their kids playgrounds gated off. But I quite like in the end the way it feels very free roaming and a bit more open and spacious. So as I said, lighting was quite important in creating this kind of magical-esque vision that I had for the park. I really love this roller rink and the fairy lights that kind of dangle down across the center of the roller rink, and the way you can customize it. So I wanted to match that with the lighting that I used around the park. So I used the lanterns coming off the poles and kind of tried to create spaces using those poles. So once I put in most of the main pieces, I then started on foliage and flowers. I find it really tricky sometimes when I have a lot of open space, trying to balance out like where the flowers go, what decorations go where, how many trees and that kind of thing, and how they can be used to either fill a space or to just make it look nicer in certain spots. So I think the trick that I use when I'm doing this is to find spots where it can be used to kind of create a space or close off spaces, create features. So I often use flowers very concentrated like. So for example, the spot in front of the roller rink becomes a very floral space, like a kind of mini garden. And then I use flowers in other areas to sort of highlight and just fill spots, particularly where there's trees. I like to put trees with flowers around them just to kind of hide the trunk of the tree area, and just make it more decorative. For the garden bit in front of the roller rink, I chose to use more of the sort of indoor plant features than natural plants, because I thought that year round they would look better. So I wanted to put flowers and features like that around certain areas. I like to do that to kind of highlight them and just make them a lot more pleasant to be around, like the benches and the park picnic tables by the coffee stand. So I throw in some lanterns and a couple of small vase flowers as well. So after I'd done a lot of the flower stuff, I kind of went around and I wasn't really sure what else to do or what else to put in there. And then I realized that I'd actually left out toilets. And so I was going to build an actual building as I would usually. But then I remembered that The Sims 4 has these outhouses that you don't have to actually see the toilets, they're just a building of toilets. And I really wanted to give those a chance and see how they worked, and so I found the very perfect one that you see here, with the kind of lattice gating and the vines going up it, which matched the floral pieces that I put next to it as well, and next to the cafe, and they very much fit with the woody vibe of the roller rink as well. I then just went around and tidied a few things up and changed some colour schemes, just fixed some of the flooring and the flowers that were around. I then moved on to doing the lighting, which I always go into night mode just because you can see where the kind of gaps in lighting are and see what needs to be lit up more. So I always add in fountain lights just to light that up. I added little toilet lights outside. I thought that they would come with lights, especially because there's one on the wall, but it didn't seem to light up when I went into the night mode, which was strange. So the kids area, as I said, I was wondering whether to gate that off like a normal kind of kids play area would, and I may go back and do that again, I'm not sure, but I went with just a kind of rough muddy patch. It's very free flowing in the way it's designed, and so I ended up using more flowers. Like I said, I like to sometimes use flowers as ways to cordon off areas and kind of give them a definition and give them shape. So I used a lot of flowers in the corners around the kids area to create that kind of walled off effect. I also came across this tree called the Dogwood, which is actually where obviously the name for the park has come from. I just really liked the design of it. I liked the colour. It's kind of sage green with these white flowers coming off it. It kind of contrasts with the very much more bold green trees that are throughout the park. So you can see here that I'm doing the sort of thing of adding flowers around trees and those kind of focal points just to make them a little bit prettier, and adding also the mud underneath them to define them and make them very realistic. After I'd played around with adding more flowers in, I also wanted to do what I typically do, is to add in plants from the indoor section. As I said, I think they give a lot more variation, and they obviously stay that way year round. So when the seasons change, it means you've still got some nice foliage around. And so while I was doing that, I actually found these sort of lamppost type poles that have these big bulbous sections of flowers, and I just did this little hack of just kind of merging them with every pole of the roller rink, and I think in the end it kind of looks really nice and gives it that little bit extra fantasy feel. At this point, I basically just had to keep adding in flowers and more little details like this, just to kind of fill out the space. Especially, as I said, I wanted the kids' area to look a little bit nicer because it was just a very muddy patch. So instead of putting in a gate, I just put some flowers in to make some of the corners more defined and like it's a kind of closed off space without actually making a properly closed off space. And then I just do some final checks before we go and reveal the full park. So I finish off by adding in just a couple more lights here, and then we will have a look at the final product. So this is all very much about just finessing the very fine details, so adding in those little flower vases for each table just to kind of tie in what the whole park feels like into every section of it, changing some of the layouts and changing some of the flooring with those flowers there. And then I decided to try and name the park, which was more tricky than I thought it was. And in the end, I just went with Dogwood Park because of that one tree. The chessboard that you see there is actually not something that was in the build at first. It was something, as I was trying to quit and save the park, I realised that one of the requirements for the park was to have a chessboard, so it wouldn't let me actually do the park fully without having that in there. It's one of the most popular parts of the park actually when you go into play mode. And as you can see, the playground as well itself is very popular. I just really love having the roller rink there. I think it's a really interesting design. I love what it looks like and just its inclusion, which I'm glad for because I remember it being in Sims 3 and loving it, so I'm glad they brought it back for The Sims 4. I think I'm still in two minds about the gates and whether to add in any fences, particularly around the playground area, just because I know that's typically what parks like this would have. They would gate off that kind of area. It's also a dog friendly park, which is really great because when you go there, there's like at least 3 dogs show up in the park, so that's really fun as well. As you can see, little Muffin is sleeping on the floor, which is very, very cute. I also just love a lot of the floral areas. It's one of my favourite things to do, but also a massive burden as well. I think when it comes to any landscaping and gardens, I can often feel very, as I said, it's tricky to map it out sometimes, and so in the end I think I'm very happy with the amount I put in here, and I didn't overrun the park with them, but it's just nice enough. And we're just going to finish off the build here by showing you what it looks like in the evening time, because I think that was one of the things I really wanted, was to make sure that if someone was there from morning till evening, then the lighting in particular would be really fairy tale like and romantic and very enchanting, because I just love the idea that parks are that for people. They're a very like soft space that you can relax in, hang out with people, and so I think the lighting really works for that. Thank you for watching this build. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts on it, and check out any of my other videos. I'll be posting more regularly these days and streaming my builds on Twitch, so if you want a link to that, please check out the comments, and thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.